Дорогие друзья, пока коллеги собирают,
Dear friends, I suggest that we start
вчера мы с вами в рамках пленарного заседания
our work.
масштабные и глобальные
Yesterday we discussed more global aspects,
сосредоточимся на практических аспектах того, как
and now we concentrate on practical aspects. How can we use IT technologies for mother tongues? I'm happy to see all of you, and now I would like to give the floor
первому
to the first speaker, Tunde Adekbola. He modestly sitting together with me, but he is a very famous scientist, linguist. He stood at the origins of many TV stations, and he was executive director of African Languages Technologies Initiative. So he personally dealing with these problems. Dear Tunde, please tell us about what is needed in order to ensure the information communication environment for the mother tongues to be successfully developed.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. Thank you for inviting me for this meeting. The whole issue of mother tongue and as it affects, as it's impacted by ICT is a very interesting subject. What we find is that more and more, we now communicate with each other, with one another through machines as human beings. And more we are having to also communicate with machines. It's important, therefore, to ensure that ICT is amenable to as many as, if not all, the languages of the world, 7,000 odd of them, so that nobody will need to live in the information age having to learn a foreign language. Everybody should be able to live in the information age through their own languages. One of the issues that must be looked at very critically is that language is transferred. Sustenance of a language is due to the transfer from parents to children, particularly mothers. Now, we live in an era in which children, young people are seen as cyber natives. Their parents are cyber migrants, which means the parents are not as competent in these facilities as the children. Yet, it is the responsibility of the parents to hand on the language to the next generation. So our work is about ensuring that as many languages as possible have the facility of ICT and no language is left behind. If I can have the clicker, please. If you look, I mean, we talk a lot about mother tongue, its importance and all that. And many times it's usually emotional, sentimental, our languages must not die and all that. But when we look critically, you see that there's a lot more in the whole issue of mother tongue. This is a scatter diagram of the Human Development Index of 71 Asian, African, and South American countries, arranged in the alphabetical order of the names of their countries. When you see, what you see there is just a spread of dots. But if you arrange according to the language of education, then you see that the countries to the left of the chart have lower Human Development Index, and the countries towards the right have a higher Human Development Index. The countries to the left are the countries who teach their children in foreign languages. And the countries to the right are those who teach their children in their mother tongue. So we see immediately that there is a correlation between the language of education and the Human Development Index. Of course, I mean, like every attempt to represent human reality in numbers. The HDI has its criticisms and all that, but definitely we see here a reflection. So it stands to reason, therefore, that it is very important for us as we go more and more, as we go further into the information age, as we go into the develop the information society, that nobody will have to learn a foreign language to live in the information society, or to live in the information society in a compromised form, because the ICT is not amenable to the language. So it is important, therefore, that we build a kind of environment in various nations, build an environment that supports, that encourages, that promotes the continued use of mother tongues. Many of us live in societies where the language of administration, the language of education, the language of officialdom, the language of even legal practice. You go to the court to argue your case, you speak through an interpreter in a foreign language. So all these are situations that compromise people's living, making people to live in a compromised way. And it's as though the information communication technology is making that even worse, to the extent that the domains in which the mother tongue is used are limited. We talk of active languages as languages that are used in the communication, but as we go further into the information age, the definition of an active language has to be looked at again, because if the use of the language does not provide any footprints that can accumulate into big data, then it's virtually impossible to develop ICT that can carry these languages. So there is a need to look critically into this to ensure that to build these environments in which the use of mother tongues in domains that encourage the footprints on the global information infrastructure, such that the use of these languages can build into big data, such that we do not have to deliberately collect data, expensive data, to do the things that are done naturally in many other languages. So it's really important. And what we do is we look at languages. There are many languages in the world that are still unwritten. They don't have a writing system. But IT provides facilities for such languages to enjoy some of the advantages of writing, because with multimedia, with speak technologies, it is possible to actually jump some of the stages of development. I pose the question, for example, if the audio recorder was invented before writing, will writing be as important as it is today? And we have to look at that. Let us, first of all, agree that writing is not as natural to the human being as speaking. Because to be a speaker of a language, all you need to do is just live in a speaking environment, live in the language environment, and you adopt the language and speak. But to write, you have to go to school. You have to be schooled. You have to be taught. You have to develop the discipline. So even though we have developed writing, it's become some of the index, a part of the index of well-being, but the fact still remains that speaking is still the preferred form of human communication. That's why we're here. We came here to speak. We could have written and exchanged our writings. There's still this thing about writing. So when IT now brings in multimedia, brings in multimodality, you can see, you can hear, you can sense in various ways. It enhances the communication process, but also all the famed advantages of writing, of precision, of propagation, of permanence, come on with multimedia. It is usually said that when a sage dies in an oral culture, a library is buried. No more with IT, because you can get the sage's thoughts to be recorded. And beyond multimedia, there's now the facility of speech technologies, speech synthesis, speech recognition, which can be used to bridge some of these gaps, even in so-called unwritten languages, because we've experimented with converting languages that are not written into graphical symbols based on international phonetic alphabets. And so there are lots of possibilities with the development in artificial intelligence, in various technologies that are coming on. And we should carefully, deliberately look at the situation of many mother tongues that are not as popular as some of the languages that are dominating the ICT arena, and ensure that the advantages offered by artificial intelligence, advantages offered by various aspects of technology are placed at the disposal of people who use languages that don't have some of the advantages that some of the more popular languages do have. I'll stop there for the time being.
Окей, thank you. Спасибо, Тунде. Какие именно инициативы...
Any kind of initiatives in practice are you developing within the framework of IT technologies?
Oh, yes, I mean, we said our objective is to ensure that nobody has to learn a foreign language to use ICTs. And when computers came, they were highly specialized equipment used in highly specialized environments in which are used only by highly specialized people. Then the computer left this high specialized environment onto the desktop of professionals, to the extent that IT skills became professional skills. But it didn't stay there. It went onto the streets, to the extent that IT skills became life skills. So at that point, it now becomes important that there are facilities to ensure that no language is left behind. So we look at, we start with things like developing, compiling locales for various languages, developing keyboards that can be used to replicate the various the specialities of languages. There are many languages with underdots, with tone marks, tone languages, that the normal QWERTY keyboard and the other keyboards cannot cater for. So we develop keyboards. Then we go into developing spell checkers, such that when you develop Corpora, you have the advantage of making sure that the data is of high quality. From Corpora, we're going to developing systems with a multimedia. For example, we have a medication reminder, which when you go to the hospital, the doctor gives you this medication. Many people go home because they can't read, they can't follow up the medication. So you have this medication reminder on your phone, which rings an alarm at the time that you're supposed to use the medication, and says in the local language, your medication for the morning, the one that is liquid, it's now time to use it. Please use it and press this button if you have used it. And you do that through the day. And at the end of the week, a summary information is sent to the doctor so that this person used these drugs at this time, at this time, at this time, and such things. Then we go beyond using multimedia for such things, we go into speech technologies, creating speech synthesizers, such that when you send a text message to your grandmother in the village, she doesn't have to go around town to say, please, can you read this for me? My son had sent me a text message. You can translate, the system can translate the written material into spoken material, and can also translate spoken material into written material. And what you find is that many situations in which you have plurality of languages, like in Nigeria, for example, we have up to about 500 different languages. Of course, there's always the argument of the difference between a language and a dialect, but at the end of the day, there's still a lot of languages that make it difficult for people to communicate beyond ethnic groups. So we are looking at developing machine translators. I mean, to develop an application in which you pick up your telephone and you dial a number, and because that person is registered as speaking this language, and each time you are speaking, the system is translating what you are saying into the language of your interlocutor. And your interlocutor is speaking back to you in his or her language, but you are hearing him in your language. These are facilities that are made possible by modern technology. There are no more rocket science. The facilities to do them are there. And the penetration of handheld devices is wide now. All these facilities are going wide. So these are some of the systems that we develop, make it possible to continue to encourage the use of these mother tongues.
Большое спасибо.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Our next speaker is Tabea Deville, Associate Professor, University of Limerick. She will tell us about some technologies of cooperation with indigenous people, helping develop the specific.
Hello, my name is Tabea Deville, and I'm presenting on behalf of the Keyboards team at Translation Commons. The topic of
Добрый день.
technology and free information exchange contributing to a solution. The Keyboards initiative at Translation Commons has three main goals. We want to develop keyboards for as many languages as possible. We want to enable others to develop keyboards, and we want to enable others to train keyboard developers. We do this by actually developing keyboards, developing and describing processes for keyboard development, and by training others to make keyboards. We believe that these three elements are essential in making keyboard technology available to everyone in a democratic way that empowers communities rather than having merely a top-down approach, as is historically the case for digital technology. In this presentation, I will first talk about digital marginalization and its consequences, then about the importance of changing how technology is developed, and then how we can empower communities by developing technology for them, but also by teaching them how to develop technology. So what do we mean with the term digital marginalization? As you most likely know, digital technology started out as being very Anglo-centric, which was due to the fact that a lot of this technology actually got initially conceived and developed in English-speaking environments. And then over the decades, a lot more languages were included, which is why we now have many of the world languages being basically as functional as English. So there would be keyboards for German and very flourishing internet life for French, and machine translation between English and Spanish and so on. However, the languages we are interested in when we talk about digital marginalization are those that are still not at all or insufficiently supported. So that can mean that there is maybe no keyboard available for the language, or the language writing system isn't actually encoded in Unicode yet, or more advanced things are not available, such as predictive text. And then, of course, to what extent is it possible to find information in that language anywhere, and so on and so forth. So when a language is digitally marginalized, this is not necessarily a small language. This is not necessarily a minority language. This happens to also major languages in the world that have millions and millions of speakers. But the result of this would be that it is very difficult for speakers of those languages to access information and perspectives. And that can be that they don't have access to local information or more global and general information. So what we know to be possible with learning things on the internet and finding out would be very limited to digitally marginalized speakers. Then also the ability to share information and perspectives. So they might not be able to share information within the language community. And we also don't have access to their perspectives because they can't share their perspective online. And we have, if they did, we would have no way of actually understanding it because there's no translation available, for example. The ability to communicate with other speakers of the language. So if you think about how much communicating you do on your phone with a messaging app, for example, this is very difficult if a language isn't fully able to be written in, for example, or if there is no predictive text for more advanced systems and so on. And then what we also need to consider is that when people have additional needs, then when a language isn't properly digitized, then accessibility can suffer for them. So this could mean, for example, that a person who needs a screen reader would find it very difficult to read a website with a screen reader if the website doesn't actually have the text typed out there, but has embedded images, because the person creating the website was worried about the text being displayed properly on all different types of browsers and all different configurations. So there is an additional intersectional aspect to digital marginalization when it comes to any sort of additional needs that people might have.
When we want to start addressing these issues, one of the early steps that need to happen is that of language digitization. This process enables the language to be present in digital space and is a multi-step process that involves many different groups of individuals. This would include, for example, the font design for a language, including the language in Unicode, the character encoding and the common locale data repository, keyboard development, and then further and further more advanced steps such as language data, predictive text, and so on. There is, of course, a lot of other factors that need to happen for a language to be able to be used online or in digital technology and to be fully functional, but these are essential initial steps for that.
On this slide, you see a list of languages for which members of our group have already developed a keyboard or are currently doing so. I also included the approximate number of speakers for those languages. And yes, of course, there are some very small languages such as Sunawar and Elfdalian, but also take note of the fact that there are quite a few languages that have, more than 500,000 speakers, close to 1 million, or even more than 2.5 million speakers, actually.
When developing technology for historically marginalized communities, it is important to not perpetuate problematic top-down approaches that often lead to insufficient and really not very useful solutions. It is very important to be mindful of history, the specific needs and the preferences of a community. I have included some references that make for very interesting further reading. Unfortunately, I will not be able to discuss them in more detail as part of this presentation.
So from these considerations, our strategies are also derived. So when we get a keyboard request, one of the first things we do is to see whether there are previous keyboards for the language. Sometimes the requester doesn't know that these keyboards exist, but sometimes there's also a reason for requesting a different one. So we need to understand what the request is. Is it a different language variation? Has the orthography changed, or was the previous attempt not very suitable for what they're trying to do? Different reasons. We need to understand where the language is used, what the different writing systems and variations are, so that we actually develop for the right variation and actually take into consideration all the characters that need to be included. We try to learn about the requester, who they are, who they represent, and we also work quite closely, or as closely as we can, with the communities, and we're trying to get their feedback throughout the process and always make the offer to implement changes throughout.
At Translation Commons, we have developed a series of 6 videos which were recorded during internal training, and we have made them available on YouTube. We are working on a training program for future keyboard developers. We have already completed a workshop with students at the University of Limerick to make them more aware of the needs of considering language digitization in general and keyboard development specifically when they become software developers themselves. We also welcome membership from new developers into our team, and we would be very happy to help them develop keyboards for their own language communities or for others. With these strategies, we aim to broaden the access to not just the keyboards themselves, but also to the development process to make it more inclusive and less top-down.
If this presentation has piqued your interest, we would love for you to get involved. Maybe you want a keyboard developed yourself, or you know of a language community who would like a keyboard developed, and maybe you also want to start developing keyboards yourself. In this case, you would be very welcome to join our group of volunteers. You would like to be trained that teach others how to make keyboards. Whatever it is that you're interested in, we would be really delighted to hear from you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Большое спасибо.
I'd like to thank you on behalf of all participants. Unfortunately, she was not able to connect to us online, but she is not able to answer your questions. But you have seen her contacts, her address on the screen. Now I pass the floor to our next presenter, and you know, a lot of you know you. It's Sergey Bobryshev, commercial director, Paratype. She's dealing with written systems of for different languages. Sergey Nikolaevich, can you hear us? Thank you. I can hear you. Sergey, talking about your work, what kind of experience you can share, and what we shall pay attention to. Thank you, Anastasia. You will switch on the presentation, or shall I do this?
Да, все видно.
Yes, we can see it. As you can see, I will not talk only about different language, but I'll talk about world brands and Russian brands. Not only about, I will talk not only about typeface or scripts. We have a lot of opportunities for industrial production in the region. In Khanty-Mansiysk, there are a lot of big Russian companies there. In Russia, we have more than 190 languages, and out of the 150 use national written system on the basis of Cyrillics. And for them, there are more than 180 characters. The majority of of them are part of Cyrillic code on Unicode standards, which allow us to use different digital types. Now, the GA Assembly took the decision that this is the decade of local languages, and it actually reflects a lot of issues related to education, professional training of indigenous population, and Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Federal Agency of Nationalities, Ministry of Education are involved in these activities, as well as social public organizations. In situ, locally, there are movements developed, there are projects implemented aimed at producing online translators and dictionaries, the speech recognition systems, Wikipedia, national Wikipedia, and digital national written systems are developed. The library of multilingual types, including systems with open licenses. Different systems have been added there, which could be used in processing documents, replacing right to Roman system. And you can see these links which could be used. We are grateful to the director of the Department of Information, Maria Zakharova. She paid attention to the importance of this project in her briefing November 23rd, 2023. New types, face types, have been developed in such a way in order to correspond metrically with analogs, and which should correspond to standards of documents processing, and the Times New Roman is an example. Here you can see the demonstration. But all these types are they correspond to each other. That's why all the text in Times New Roman, when it is replaced by asterisk serif, nothing will be changed. More than 150 languages support these types. But the majority of governmental structures in Russia, they keep using commercial types New Roman, and the rights for this is company Monotype, and it is located in the United States. Thus, they are just ignoring the call to replace imported programs with Russian programs. Transferring to new types is part of our project related to document processing, and it could be done with one click, replacing imported program with the Russian program. You can just download open for use types, face types. They could be used in any operational system and for any purposes, for commercial use, for non-commercial use, and on the level of state or a region. And using these links, you can download these typefaces or scripts, and the activity of regional and the national structures, their interaction with people, with citizens, they often use the funding basis. It's very important, but also the role of those who actually support the life of people which speak local languages or work with local languages to support them is very important. And I'm talking about business. We should help them, help those who have their own national culture and language. Foreign and Russian research shows that people are expecting that brands will interact with them in their own local language. When companies are not doing this, it actually creates uncomfortable situation. The lack of multilingual experience shows the priority of brands and could lead to certain lack of understanding of indigenous people. The leading company Unbubble writes nearly 2/3, 64% of those who have been contacted to, they are ready to pay a higher price for a product or service if a brand offers them products in their own language. And this percentage increases in certain markets enormously. In Brazil, it's 84%. So consumers are ready to pay more for a service if brand is offering its service or product in its own language. And it's a huge opportunity for a brand. And if they offer this kind of support in the local language and their competitors not, they will have a competitive edge. If you offer an infrastructure or employment for indigenous population in the locality where a company is working, especially when it's dealing with natural resources, it consolidates its image and creates a proper climate for interaction with people or administration. Here you can see the biggest world brands, and it's according to their profit. They are ranked according to their profit. And in yellow, you can see companies, oil-producing companies, comparing to Khanty-Mansiysk region. One can see that some of them, first of all, Aramco, Saudi Arabia, they have, it has its own corporate typeface, Aram Grahar, and it is supported by, it supports national, local languages of indigenous population in localities where this company is active. Also, ExxonMobil, company which is which used to be quite active in Sakhalin. Presently, I don't know whether they're still working there or not, but in their typeface, corporative typeface, ExxonMobil print, they used symbols of Welsh language. This is a best practice which should be followed by our companies. Motorola, for example, recently added to their smartphones Latin languages, and Latin is under the threat of being extinguished. Cherokee, Ori country language also has been added. Kaigan language, and Ingatu. It's one of the languages of Brazil along the Amazon River. Motorola still strives to conserve local languages, overcome linguistic differences, and Motorola is aimed at a more diverse world society. That's exactly what our Gazprom, Rosneft, Lukoil should do in their corporate typeface. They should include their national ethnic symbols of Khanty, Mansi, Nancy, all those people who live in the areas where these companies are working, where they are producing natural resources. On this slide, you can see biggest Russian brands and their corporate typeface include or not include national symbols of indigenous people of Russia. Such face types, well, they include corporate typefaces of Sberbank, and it's 87 typefaces and even more. And VTB group, banking group, also is part of these companies, which have their own corporate typefaces, which includes indigenous languages characters. And that's it. We should attract business to the solution of this problem. I believe that we should call upon specific companies, send them letters. Well, the authorities should do, regional authorities should do this in support of indigenous languages, and Association of Indigenous People of the North and Far East. So they could write letters and send them to our corporations, calling upon them to include indigenous languages characters in their corporate typeface. It would allow us to offer education in indigenous languages. And I'm sure that our business, in order to improve their prestige and image, would react correctly, and I am sure that they will support national symbols, including them into their corporate typefaces, and thus we will achieve aims of our conference, and thus we will answer to the problems of tangible and intangible results of information in digital age. Thank you, Sergey. Well, colleagues, we have a round table. That's why we can ask questions to our speakers. If you have questions about typefaces, please. Nikolai Pavlov. Thank you. Sergey Nikolaevich, I have the following question about your presentation. What shall be done in order to convince people to do what you've just mentioned? Shall we talk about this at schools? Shall we include this into school curricula? Shall we train designers? Thank you, Nikolai Nikolaevich. Important question. Stereotype. We are not an educational center. We are production company which produces this typefaces, but we pay a lot of attention to this. But I'm sure that you know this problem related to font types. I am a constant participant of such conferences. I keep talking about typeface, font types, fonts or symbol fonts. Well, in our country now, in different republics, we send letters to different republics. We send letters But unfortunately, it's not that easy to overcome inertia. Inertia related to the use of equipment. Some has computers with a foreign operational system Windows, and Windows has Microsoft type Neuromans fonts pre-installed. One should do a simple thing, just to install new fonts with the support of indigenous languages and use them. And the majority of people will not be able to see the difference between Times New Roman and new fonts, although they have different designs. This should be done. And in this specific case, Ministry of Digitalization could help if they start working actively in this area.
You setting of the Russian texts or scripts, use of other systems like Astra Linux, well-known system on the basis of which our law enforcement authorities are working on. So this process would be faster in terms of incorporation into the school. And you are saying right, and I hope that we will see it in the near future and to move this process forward. Thank you.
Большое спасибо, Сергей Николаевич.
Thank you very much, Sergey Nikolaevich. Colleagues,
Сразу представлю. Николай
I would
Николаевич,
like to present Nikolai Nikolaevich is Mr. Pavlov, Havan, known on internet. He is a compiler of many articles in Sakha language. What was the inception of the Sakha Wikipedia or online encyclopedia? Yes, thank you very much. I would like to thank from the words of gratitude to organizers, Sergei Dmitryevich, Anastasia, and all other colleagues. They are always quite attentive to our languages. They invite our speakers from the region. And today we have a possibility to communicate with our foreign partners and colleagues, a rare opportunity, I would say, and to share our experience and information with them so that people around the world understand better what we are living in and what we are doing. Regarding your question, I wouldn't say that I'm prepared for this conversation. It's been a long time when we started working on Wikipedia in our mother tongue. Situation has changed since that time, and now we want, probably you heard from me and from other people, now we want to use better other indigenous languages, Evenk, Uyghur, and others, and organize the same projects. Now we expect new projects to be launched, including in these languages with the proper support and resources provided by the activists and volunteers. Especially, I'm referring to Evenk language, the most preserved, spoken very often in Winsky language, spoken in many languages, in many regions, in the Ural regions. That would be very good. And I see my colleagues also would speak this conference today. With your permission, I would like to say the following. Of course, we are here all linguists, all experts, but here we have also people, like I say, decision makers. And UNESCO is dealing with this block of matters and questions. That is why I would like to share our aspirations in the region, who we are in the region, what we want to achieve. First, as I believe, we are still not so sure about what we really want, what we really want to achieve. Of course, we want to communicate in our mother tongues, in indigenous people, more often to secure the future of these languages. But probably the state should or needs to make some steps. Of course, we understand the complexity of these processes, the big number of languages, their conditions, situation or status. Recently, Prime Minister Mishustin has signed the concept on native indigenous languages, quite a positive document which comprehensively covers all the matters that are dealt with by the state in this linguistic area. But we would like that the people in the region and in the center understand better, or at least share common understanding in this regard. And probably the developers, software developers, should understand better what tasks they are facing. And to do so, we need to understand better this stage where we are. Unfortunately, this is the most problematic and fragmented thing. Some people know this thing, the others, and Bashkir, Tatar, Evenk, these peoples sometimes are working in isolation without sharing this information with each other. So we feel the lack of this information, information on the projects being conducted and implemented. Not sufficient information about that. And of course, probably we need to maintain the working contacts with the foreign countries, foreign partners, especially within the framework of the UNESCO program. Much has been done for the last 10 years. Probably we need to start from maintaining personal contacts with each other to understand the situation in our respective regions, countries, what we've done, what we need to do, and corporations are also start being concerned with the situation of with our languages. Some markets disappeared. Yandex, Sber developers, software developers now start looking at our languages. And we would like to tell them that they should cooperate, not compete with each other. it is necessary to understand that when the company comes to the region, it could prepare the soil for the other companies who follow this company. So I insist on the need of better cooperation between these companies, not competition between them. Regarding the content, once we have UNESCO experts here, I believe the children content, which is popular among the children, should be localized, in other words, translated in our mother tongues and translated for our families without any barriers in terms of copyrights. How can we achieve this and who can achieve this? I still don't know. Probably if UNESCO would deal with that. And of course, we now face relevant challenges, which is the translation first, of the content, like simultaneous but machine translation. That would be a good idea if we manage to achieve this. So a kid watching a movie or a cartoon in English could get the immediate translation or interpretation in his or her mother tongue. So it would be good if cartoons start talking our mother tongues. Content is a primary form of creation of visions among our children. So we have a lot of creative platforms used in our schools, not only in our country, but in other countries as well. And we would like to see these platforms looking at the needs of our native languages in terms of creation of possible interfaces in our indigenous languages, so that the school subjects could be given in for example, Yakut language. Today and yesterday, I visited the meetings, the sessions of this forum, and I realized that I missed the Khanty Mansi languages. I didn't hear it or them in the rooms, in the meeting rooms. So it would be good if we use it more often, and especially in the framework of this forum or conferences. If we are dealing with the promotion of mother tongues, then probably we need to ensure interpretation not only Russian English, but maybe in mother tongues or indigenous languages, so that they are present and heard in these conferences. This is what I wanted to say. Thank you, Nikolai Nikolaevich. As far as I understand, the community of linguist activists dealing with the introduction of language technologies for the indigenous languages of Russia, they are communicating very actively, they know each other well, and it's necessary that they go beyond the framework of these conferences and the programs. UNESCO is not in a position to deal with the legislative regulation. We just provide the framework for these discussions, and this conference is the platform for this discussion. Once we start talking about this, then our next speaker, Andrei Cheremeshev, researcher, Laboratory of Interdisciplinary Studies, but also coordinator of RuWiki. This is the analog of Wikipedia. Deputy head, okay. Coming back to the background, since 2007, we created this site. We faced a lot of challenges, but many federal TV channels showed saying that we use Windows, and some scripts were not available for some languages. If you launch Yandex search engine, you can write Indians against Bill Gates. You will find these records. In 2011, we organized a big conference in Yoshkar-Ola in April, and we discussed what we need to do for indigenous languages to ensure proper operation them on internet. So to ensure Unicode software to type these letters in mobile phones or computers, electronic dictionaries, check system, machine translation system, and search engines. In our software, we provided all the letters which are not supported with Unicodes. Mansi and Khanty languages didn't have Unicodes. If you don't have Unicodes, so these letters are not possible to type on the internet. We send this information to many agencies, ministries, and we requested that any response is given to organize Unicodes for these letters. Now we are in 2024. Some Khanty and Mansi letters still do not have Unicodes. Of course, you can type it in circumvention of these Unicodes. We apply once again last year, asking to have to provide Unicodes for these letters, but we are still waiting. So we also need speech synthesizers, speech recognition systems. So briefly, I try to present this. Regarding electronic dictionaries, if you have a barcode, you can use it to get access to a huge amount of electronic dictionaries. We have been developing this dictionary since 2011. This is the example of Mansi Russian language. Sergei Remezov asked me to develop this dictionary. At that time, we needed them. Today, there is a big demand also, but regarding the parallel corpora, we supplement this Mari Russian corpora, and it is publicly available. Then Yandex use it to create machine translation system. We create the same system in order to improve this translation. Everything is publicly available free of charge. Regarding the speech recognition and synthesizers, this is a sound studio. We create data set for synthesization of speech. We marked all the sentences. We received this marks and sound for it, and we ask ChatGPT, please provide software it was done by just ChatGPT. So you have a barcode, you can also use it. We use common voice cross-language platform, and we created 300 hours of Mari language. Regarding monolingual corpus for one language, they are also in great demand for language learning, and they are also available free of charge using this link. This is the example of language learning in Mari language. We no translation. We provide a dictionary, and we ask the system to use this. No success. Then we correct it, adjust it, and we learn. And the machine is now know how to interpret these languages. The same could be done for other languages. We are doing this for the sake of our children. And should we have these tools, we can create the system of automatic translation of audio content for our children are in a position to watch cartoons in Mari language, for example. And the same should be done with the smart voice system. I guess we'll continue. We have another system. Languages are different, means one code. Now a new internet encyclopedia RuWiki. It's based on Russian internet sources. All the information from the global Wikipedia was transferred. We have revision team which were brought in compliance with the Russian legislation. Our motto is trust, correction information, verified information. Revision work continues, starting from the Russian Academy of Science. We have verified articles edited by our revising team. And if we don't understand something, for example, for chemistry, then we apply to chemical institutes asking to verify this article. In RuWiki, in April, we'll launch version 2.0. In Russian, you can hear these articles, but by the end of this year, we expect to launch RuWiki 3.0. If you're interested in history, then the history-related articles would be proposed to you. The main idea is that RuWiki works not only in Russian language. We also have sections in mother tongues and indigenous languages. As of today, we translated them in 20 languages: Altai, Bashkir, Buryat, Veps, Ingush, Kalmyks, Mokshar, Mari, Makshan, Sakha, Tatar, Tuvin, Udmurt, Khakas, Chechen, Chuvash, Erzen languages. This is about 100,000 articles which are synchronized between various languages. And we keep working, keep translating. This year, when we translated interface, we need to translate around 5,000 articles, and it turns out that in some languages we do not have analogs, and our translators had to invent the analogs in their mother tongues. There are further proposals to include more languages, even minor languages, when 100 persons speak this language. We proposed to create incubator and using generative models and on the basis of electronic dictionaries in mother tongues, we publish and translate 100 popular articles, and of course with mistakes, but probably if we find some experts in these languages, then of course we can keep this and continue the use of this language in our encyclopedia. This is briefly about RuWiki. This is a code bar. You can get a link.
Большое спасибо,
Thank you very much, Andrei Valerievich.
Вы упомянули о том, что
You mentioned that in translating RuWiki interface, you lack some
переводчики создают
analog terms, and translators created analogs.
в регионах.
Did they invite the experts from the linguistic commissions? It depends on the regions. In some regions, we had revision teams, linguistic teams, like we have specific linguistic commissions with the linguistic linguists, and they work on new terms, innovation. Some regions do not have these commissions, but they have analog or similar commissions dealing with the linguistic and writing matter. So this is quite a creative piece of work. We use RuWiki as a source of data for learning in neural networks. All these systems like ChatGPT, they were taught on Wikipedia because there are a lot of articles, and that was the basis for them. We are creating the content networks for our languages. That would be the resource base for the neural systems. Many articles are translated from Russian into our mother tongues, and this is a parallel corpora, and this is a initial resource base for machine translation. So development of RuWiki in Russian Federation languages, that would lead to creation of necessary data bases for this. Any questions? In Russia, as we know, we have 153, and with dialects it exceeds 200. You translate it in 20 languages, and you plan 8 more languages. So it will take a lot of years to do, or you have a faster method of doing this in terms of translation into these languages. And we invite you all the time, and we promote RuWiki, advertise RuWiki at all sessions. This is a replacement of Wikipedia as of today, but your heads are not fully agree with that because Wikimedia is prohibited in Russia. Soon we can expect the prohibition of Wikipedia. So RuWiki would be the dominant knowledge system. One of the proposal is the creation of neural system which are based on the electronic dictionaries of the languages of Russia. But still, the speakers of these languages, should look into these articles in order to find some mistakes and correct them. Of course, we can apply to the respective ministry and ask them to help us with that. Of course, we will talk to our leaders Of course, it would be good if we cover all the languages.
Хорошо слышно.
Please use the microphone. Mr. Melnikov, Director, UGRA Research Institute for Information Technologies. Thank you very much. My question is, you talk about the results of machine translation of Mari language. Do you have a system of quality in order to assess the level of quality of the translation? We had a system, we used to have a system NLB 200 developed by the organization prohibited in Russia. This is a system of translation between 200 languages in circumvention of English and Russian languages. So NLB 200 developers provided original codes for university community to develop further this system. So this system would cover more languages, and they have a register of proposals. First, 997 proposals. The second register includes more than 1,000 proposals. So first thing that needs to be done is to translate them in our languages, then include them in this corpus, not parallel corpus. These proposals are intended to assess the quality of machine translation, like Yandex machine translation and others. I updated the parallel corpora, which includes these numerous proposals, and asked Yandex to update Marie machine translation. I know that they use these machines to assess the quality. What level of quality? I'm not aware of that, but maybe other systems of assessment of quality. When we included Mari language into Yandex machine translation, the quality was very poor. But after some time, we didn't update the parallel corpus because of some shortage in resources. 2 years ago, they updated using our regional data and information. They updated this corpora, and now the quality is better. I checked this translating Dostoevsky poem, but we are not sitting idle. We continue working, and we put text in Russian taken from media reports or articles, and they translate from Russian into Mari language, and we also use spell checker in Mari language, and if there are some mistakes, they would be automatically corrected and stored in database. And by doing so, we will improve better quality of translation. And another question, sorry for delay, it's very interesting indeed. Look, the major tool you use is Yandex Translator. When we started drafting language corpora, text corpora for Yandex, we faced some difficulties because in construing text parallel corpus, you immediately have some problems because of the lack of adequate analogs in terms. And sometimes we see Russian words are used instead of the analogs in Maria. So these are the problems which mean that we have a translation from Russian into Russian. What is your solution to that? We just compile the text. We didn't translate Yandex corpus. We compiled our own corpus. We collected all translation of classic literature. It started in 1930s of the last century. So we compare them with Russian translation, with Maria translation. Of course, quality was poor because it dated back to 50s, 60s of last centuries. So there was adaptation for the Russian-speaking users, but we used special software created by Mr. Verkiev. This system searches maximum close analogs in both languages, and we used articles about sports, culture. We didn't invent something new. We just trying to base ourselves on already available system. Briefly about the unique activities in the area of development of technologies, and Andrei Alexandrovich would continue. Everything is in the report by Mikhail Alexandrovich. Of course, Mikhail Alexandrovich, you have the floor. Good afternoon. Thank you for this possibility to speak. I work in Gorskaya Research Institute of Information Technologies. Can you launch my presentation? Some words about the project launched in 2023, the initiative of the governor of our region, and it is called National Corpus of Mansi Language. Just briefly about the plan of work, then service which we used to create the parallel corpus, then the intermediate outcome of this project, and how can we apply these results in practice. In 2023, we developed the service of parallel corpus, which is used by experts and linguists. Then we equipped the physical places for the translators. These are the people or speakers of this language, which participate in these projects. Geographically, they are dispersed, and it was necessary to create a single working place. We also developed the layout of the keyboard, and with special stickers on the keyboard for easier use of this, and we set up specific workplaces for that. We plan to have more than 175 proposals, and now we collected about 79,000 proposals. We would like to conduct auditing of these proposals to create a speech recognition system. Then the next stage would be the development of portal of indigenous and small northern peoples, which means the parallel corpora, text corpus, and other services which would support this portal. And then it is followed by integration of this system into this portal. Some words about service which we have developed. It was developed taking into account the possibility of integration of principle of parallel corpora. We understand that it would be expanded to other languages, and we need to ensure the availability of that. For example, the translation of newspaper texts or classic literature. And the idea was initially to translate Yandex corpus. To some extent, it is translated, and this works gradually terminated. About the scheme of functioning of a business process of work of the system, the idea was translation should be of high quality and flexible and quick. All the proposals are incorporated into systems and they are given to translator when he operates this system.
Мы заложили возможность, если
So we introduced a possibility for a translator if he or she cannot translate a sentence, he could skip it. Probably other translator will do it. So if the translation is done, then this translation is analyzed by experts, and they actually confirm the quality of translation. Expert got translation without knowing who translated it, and an expert sees just a translation, and then an expert has two possibilities. He can approve this translation, correct it. If the translation is not of high quality, then an expert could comment what is the problem with this, what kind of problem we have with this translation. We don't return all translations, but if we have a systematic mistakes, then translator should understand what kind of mistakes he or she has. And we have a lot of parallel proposals. And now, briefly about the results. We've translated for machine reading more than 233 published materials and more than 79,000 parallel proposals in Mansi languages and Russian languages we received. And our next development, why we are developing the corpus of Mansi language, why we auditing the speech. We would like people who speaks Mansi language for them to have an opportunity not only to write in Mansi language, but also to speak Mansi language. And the system should understand you, respond you in Mansi. This is our goal. And tasks is to develop a model of synthesis and generation of speech, to build a translator, machine translator for this language. And this is needed by linguists and others. And it's very important. The PCR model is very important to add new materials in Mansi language. It's a separate, rather complicated task, and it's important not only for Mansi, but for other languages as well. In Mansi, we have several graphics, Latin, Cyrillic, and others. And for each and every graphic, we need modules which should be able to recognize this language and make it machine readable. Other languages are in the same position. So the service to test whether the written text is correct or not. So the system knows what we would like to find, and we would like, this is we have in Russian, and we would like to do the same for Mansi language. And end of May, we tried to train the first Mansi machine translator from Russian into Mansi, from Mansi into Russian, into Mansi. We pay a lot of attention to quality. We should We would like to understand whether our translation is correct or not. We are IT specialists, not linguists, but the most optimum way to solve this problem is to is the expert opinion. We have rather complicated methodology here. No, but it's very interesting for me to know your opinion when we will show you the first version of this translator. We used 55,000 sentences first, and we believe that this translation works good, but to evaluate translation from Russian into Mansi, it's not that easy. Our institute is ready to cooperate with other developers. We are ready to exchange best practices. For us, it's very important. Thank you.
Большое спасибо.
Thank you.
Пожалуйста, Михаил Александрович.
Mikhail Alexandrovich, you mentioned that you started this project at the end of 2023. What are your plans? By the end of 2026 or 25th, we would like to collect corpus of 175,000 sentences, probably even more. And at the same time, we will test this sentences, and then by 2026 to develop a portal where it will be accumulated. Proposals, questions? If not, then I'd like to ask our colleague from Nigeria. You are participating in developing corpuses of texts. Could you share your experience? Who is the actors of this project, of this process in Nigeria? Is it a state project or is it a private initiative? Is it a volunteers project?
Thank you. So we are involved in strictly private. We write project proposals and try and get a funding for what we do. We do a lot with the students. I teach in 3 universities as an adjunct, so I recruit students. A lot of what we do, we actually target towards students. We make developing human capacity as the center of what we do. So a lot of other things that we achieve as byproducts of the process of developing human capital. So that way we are able to use students in our work. In developing corpus, I mean, it's fundamental to the work we do. You need corpus to develop language models to train whatever you are doing. And I found the discussion about corpus quite interesting because the same problems we have, the same problems we are dealing with, the same everywhere. We started by taking books and typing the books in, and then we had to take permission from publishers of the books. And sometimes they'll give the permission, sometimes they'll deny the permissions. Some that give permission say, well, you can use it, but you can't distribute it. So a lot of the work we do, we can't make our data available for other people to use. We can't make our data available for other people to check. So all these are some problems. After typing, at a point, we decided to go for optical character recognition with scan, and then we had to develop the optical character recognizers. Lots of errors, almost like manual work at the end of the day. But we went on, and the ultimate in all this work, the way I look at it, is the big data approach in which the data that you are collecting is a byproduct of some other efforts that are already paid for. You create a newspaper, you publish the newspaper every day, the last 100 years. It's paid for by people who buy the newspaper. So the data is a byproduct. But as long as you look for money to develop data, this is another dimension of digital marginalization. And that's why I said earlier on that all these are languages we must create the kind of environment in which they are used in the domains where they leave footprints. We also approach a broadcasting houses, but you find that a lot of the broadcasting houses, they did not realize the value of the data they generate. For example, in Nigeria, news bulletins are written in English, then they are translated into local languages. But in some stations, the local language presenter takes the English bulletin and translates extempore. Some write in longhand, and after the broadcast, throw the paper into a newspaper basket. And we've been around radio stations, television houses, telling them that, look, this is the petrol of the information age. We have to, you have to save it. It's powerful, it is important. And that's where we are now. But a lot of what we have done, we've had to, for example, in machine translation, there are a number of books in English that was translated to Yoruba, some books in Yoruba that have been translated into English. We took permission from the publishers and did this. But then there's always the Bible, which you have in various languages and in fairly large quantity. So we use the Bible a lot, and these are the ways we've been getting around this problem of data. Data is a core problem in this. In the past 2 days, I've been hearing about algorithm bias. I feel we should actually be talking about data bias more than algorithm bias, because it is the lack of data that's making some of these products behave in a biased way. And for me, when we talk of algorithm bias, we are kind of abdicating responsibility. We should be talking about data bias, because it is our responsibility to make the data available such that these things can work in our languages.
Спасибо большое, Тунде.
Thank you, Tunde, very much. So now let's give the floor to Angis Rajab Punakhin, programmer.
Got a question? Okay.
Yeah, very interesting session, but I find most of the things are for languages which have some kind of advantage in terms of developing either script or using the dominant language script. But what happens to many languages which are in oral traditions? They have oral languages. Many of them are dying. And you see, it's question of involving a lot of investments. Why should people take interest in those languages? Because first of all, data are a problem. And secondly, if we don't try to, because otherwise teaching in mother tongue, applying IT has no meaning for many of those languages. I just wanted people to think over and how we can go about that. That's, I think, it's important for us to save many of these mother tongues. Thank you.
Спасибо большое. Да, несомненно, очень важно.
Yes, no doubt. It's very important to conserve these languages and to involve additional efforts. But now I would like to give the floor to Aigis. In Bashkortostan, they have their smart column, analog like Alisa, Marisa, and Siri. This column speaks in Bashkir language, could give you information about his cultural history of Bashkortostan. And Aigis developed this column for his daughter, as far as I know. Aigis, can you hear us? Could you brief us about your project and about the experience which you got thanks to this project. How did you manage to create such instrument in a year time? Good afternoon. Yes, we are proud that in Bashkir language we have smart column, and the first column which speaks two languages of Russian Federation, Bashkir and Russian. But when we developed this column, we have a name to include as many Russian languages as possible. For people be able to interact in their own language. And we work a lot with Mari experts, and I think that during this year we will got the support or column for Mari language. Why it's important, the creation of such columns? Well, the technologies are moving forward fast, and our kids can learn their own language only at home, and what is around them uses other language, and not our languages, indigenous languages, we are losing them. So when we created a column, we wanted to get accessible information about the different things, like to do their homework, and the kids are using their own national language, and they practice their language. You can study your own culture, customs using this column, such columns. When we said that we created a smart column in a year time, actually a lot of people asked how it was possible, and I'd like to say what we have done and how we achieved this. Again, taking Bashkir language as an example, we can say that the key to this success is the three elements: activists, state support, support of software specialists. Well, in our republic, we have a foundation of our governor, and in 2023, we had grant of 50 million of rubles to develop languages of Bashkortostan. One should understand that it's not fashionable among our kids and among our youth to study their native language, and we need active supporters, but they are not enough. State is the structure which understands we shall not limit ourselves with the present time, and not every kind of activities could generate profit. Commercial companies, for them, it's not profitable to develop languages of Russian Federation, and such support, financial information support, new laws or decrees could allow us to maintain this or that language. But there is yet another element. Bureaucrats and activists, they use different languages in their interaction, and it's not that easy for them to understand each other. So, and we started to use intermediary. We have a foundation which conserved Bashkir language, and the only aim of this fund is to conserve our language, and they interact with government members quite often, and they know how to do this, and all our requests are we file this request with the help, and for government it's easy to understand what we want. So it's one of the key factors which helped us to create this smart column in a year time. Yet another important factor has to do with language activists. I will quote 3 examples here. In 2020, I said that we need to develop an audio corpus, and on the basis of corpus, one could develop a system of speech recognition. And in 2 months' time, 250 hours have been collected. And on the basis of this data, we created this model. We also have a possibility to use parallel texts. A machine believes that this is translation, and we give this text to experts, and during a year we've tested more than 1 million of sentences, and more than 5,000 persons are helping us in doing this. For column to be able to understand you, sometimes audio recognition is not done correctly. And we tested where there are mistakes, and if we find mistakes, we actually used information to train new model, and many files we've collected, and during 1 week, a lot of experts helped us to verify or test this translation. What I'd like to say. First, you don't be afraid. You should not be afraid to ask for support from those who speak this or that language. You shall tell them that you are doing this with the purpose to maintain this language, and that will help you free of time. Now, interface development. It should be simple. Telegram bot, it's very simple. Only 3 buttons. It has a person reads a sentence in Bashkir and clicks whether it's correct 1 button, if not correct another button. The more simple is interface, the better it works. And again, using Telegram bot as an example, as I said, the 500 persons actually helped us, but only 10% of people solved 80% of the problem. So you should find correct experts, needed experts, which will help you in your activities. And what else? We mentioned we have community experts. We interacted with experts from other ethnic groups, and we actually realized that we are repeating what they are doing. We are creating the same software. So we developed a community of software experts, linguists, and civil service employees. And why we did this? To exchange information about what is done in this or that area. In GitHub, persons talks how they develop machine translation systems, and you can using this database can see what is done and where. We ask our in Bashkortostan, we can ask our people, and they will help us. In Tuva, they use different approach. I'd like to quote 2 examples. First, we have a site for Algium. You can use it, and as a result, you got an audio corpus, and on the basis of this audio corpus, you could train your model or develop your model. So you used 1 hour of this kind of corpus, but you will automatically after that recognize the text and correct mistakes, which speeds up our work. And Moscow Technical University created this instrument, and now they offer this site to our community. Second example, assistance to young experts. The rector of Mariinsky University, Shevtsov, he gave us 2 servers, each of 1 million rubles worth. And two months ago, when we visited Moscow, we talked to Tatiana Kozakova from High School of Economics, and she wanted to develop a system of speech recognition in alien language. She didn't have access to servers, and we offered her 1 server, and she, in 2 weeks' time, developed her model and actually helped her in her activities. And she got results, very good results. On the basis of 10 hours, the level of mistakes is 26%. This community helps us, say, offering us codes, offering us consultations, and sometimes even offering us financial assistance. And thanks to these 3 elements, we were able to create, or we are able to create new products, not only in Bashkir language, but also in languages where there are no many users or money are not available. But this made it possible for us to do our job. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. I guess questions. If not, thank you, I guess. Let's discuss another program, which is quite interesting, and our program has changed. We have Andrei Abrosimov, who has developed a robot translator from Russian into event language. And it was awarded by the premium Made in Russia 1923. Could you tell us about that?
Миндогиркил, Аянангит. Добрый день, уважаемые участники.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, dear participants and friends. Я привез на 3 языках, на своем родном английском. Я сам являюсь авентом.
I am Evenk. I'd like to tell you about a practical project. I'm not a linguist. I'm a developer. And our project, a lot of examples have been quoted, and my project is an example when AI interacted with my language. It's an example when it's an example of rather bold projects aimed at maintaining my language. And my presentation will have 2 parts. I will show you video, which will demonstrate the essence of my project, the chronology of the project development, what has been done, and we are doing presently. What kind of results we received, and you will see it in the video material, and after video, I'll tell you how we managed to do this.
Звук надо погромче сделать.
Технологии, подобно мостам, соединяют прошлое и
Technologies are connecting past and the future. giving life to indigenous population.
каждое слово, чтобы одно языков
They collect sound and words to maintain language for centuries. AI is a powerful tool which could help to conserve indigenous languages. Our team using machine learning technologies for the 3 years of IANA project implemented a lot of ambitious ideas. Here are our results. 2021, we have created a mobile program of translation from Russian into Evenk language. It was the first time when a machine started to use Evenk language.
In 2022, after the developing this software, translation software, we received proposals for improvements in order to enrich the database of translator through the specific software and to create future solutions. As a result, we launch IANA offline project. Evenk language started to be used in many applications, Ariana and so on. 2023, the indigenous people now using the mobile translators installed on mobile phones. They are unique in design and take into account various dialects. Using this technology, some other companies developed the same software for other languages, which expanded considerably the interaction and interface between the languages of indigenous people. In 2024, Krasnoyarsk region continues Sayana project with the support of the Regional Association of Indigenous People. As a flagship software would be the combination of application used by the tribes living in the north, and it was also demonstrated at the various exhibitions in the context of smart house and was highly appreciated and evaluated by the local experts. This is a combination of solutions ensuring safety, comfort, and use of this application in the northern conditions. The main idea is just to improve the living standards of the tribal plants. This is the meeting between two worlds, young and the old one. AI is not a technology, it's a alliance to use these linguistic technologies and protect indigenous people based on the history. It provides voice to all minor people because each language matters. So, my presentation. I would like to dwell on the solutions. So you saw that we talked with Evenk language. Now we receive the feedback, mixed feedback. So 60% claimed that the translation was correct, others claim not. I've never spoke this language. It practically died in 30s of the last century. Now I start learning this language, start speaking this language. And it is very interesting for me to be submerged in this language. So, and it's not about just asking how you doing. It's more than that. It's a huge amount of data, which is a good food for thought and a good food for the databases. And it deals not only with the models, it also with the ideology, because events are spread around the country. They live in Russia, in China, and they live in Russia from Khabarovsk to Tomsk, and various dialects created a lot of problems, and they are the drivers of the death of this language, because some claims they speak better language, more correct language as others. And proceeding from these problems, we received the second draft of the project, SAPA base. If I translate or translators translate incorrectly, then you should tell us about this, and we equip them, I mean the speakers of these languages, equip them with these systems. So translators from Evenk to Russia and backward. And we receive a lot of feedback. We tested in Yakutsk region.
Вот. И начали мы проверить, получается,
We tested in villages of Yakutsk. We invited and engaged old women, because the dialect they speak is in danger. And they started translated articles and words from Evenk to Russian and from Russian to Evenk. And they translated the most common words in this language. So we collect the data, talking to the speakers of these native languages. We receive data, feedback, and we feed our machine with that. And this machine works like this. So a person pronounce a word, it is received by the machine, and then it translates. I say a word picture. In the Evenk language, we didn't have this picture, a word before. But machine realizes that this is something related to the film, camera film. And it provides a schematic analysis of this word and finds closest analog and finds its translation and generates a text. This is how it works. I will demonstrate.
Привет.
Я умею переводить с русского на венгерский язык.
My name is Ayana. I can translate from Evenk into Russian. Where you are? I don't know, at some event, or you would like to hear it in an event. Picture.
Хава мне работник. От слова хава работа.
Havam is a worker. Ork. Ogi is forest. Thank you.
получается, смотрите, нету искусственной среды, получается.
So there's no artificial environment. We using different strategy. So we use all the items around us, mobile phone, speakers, and so on, and to incorporate them into the corpus. And that attracted industrial companies, gold mining companies, Norilsk Nickel. So they operate this system and support their employees. They incorporate the words related to the industry. So we see the interaction between companies and the indigenous people living in the mining area. Then, what else? So we create artificial environment, and we still lack sufficient data. And until this August, we intend to start working on creating a full-fledged model or prototype. So to ensure the better quality of translation, this model works. It has patent from Rospatent. So within the framework of artificial environment we are talking about, we just launched a bold project. It's under consideration. This is a project of the tribal living. We're using AI. We use Gazprom TV system in Indigarka, and we use our system so we can operate smart house, which is called Do. Please turn on the light, turn off the light. So this system works on Evenki language, and we have a very short period of time from developing the system till the full usage of this system, especially in terms of a smart house or nomadic house. We are trying to test this in real terms, in real regions, and with real speakers of these languages. We believe in technologies, sincerely believe in technologies. I myself like new technologies, and I believe that the biggest value lies in us, and I believe that these values could be handed over to the next generation, to other countries. And by doing so, we have a chance to be preserved in new realities. And summing up, traditions and trend are the only ways to preservation. Thank you. Have a question, Nikolai Andreevich. Can I have a question? Can you tell us, you said that you were brought in a different language environment. What language? In Yakut language. And you spoke about an interesting project. Does it deal only with speech translation or written as well? It's not reproduce or generates speech. It also shows the written analog of the word. So we have written interface. It reflects the text, music, and also shows pictures. which were created by the native speakers of this language. Thank you very much, colleagues. Any further questions? If not, then we have some time before the closure. And I would like to give the floor from Kazakhstan, Natalia Novoseltseva, Director, Kolezhek Horizon Publishing House. We look at from a different point of view these technologies. They have been dealing with the publishing of learning materials, not only in Kazakh language, but in Russian, and they are trying to adapt this system to modern realities. They use also digital technologies, and since 2023, they have put all these learning materials on digital platform. So can you share your ideas? Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm delighted to take part in this conference. I would like to thank organizers for this possibility to speak. Thank you very much, Anastasia Valerievna, Sergei Dmitrovich, for this opportunity to show and demonstrate what we are doing and in which languages everything is done. Project Horizont publishes scientific learning materials, research materials. Our consumers are children and students. We have also among our organizers the studying, which mainly deals with the Cambridge tutorial and learning materials, which are published for Kazakhstan in English. All our textbooks are digitalized on the Oktar platform. This platform allocates simultaneously 4 publishing houses: Mektep, big publishing house Atamura, and 2 our publishing houses. This platform is gaining momentum. It covers about 50,000 users monthly. Interface is done in 3 languages: Kazakh, Russian, English, and you can select the textbooks in 4 languages, actually, including German language. As far as our publishing house is concerned, we have 3 pillars of our activities. So these values of Kazakh society, there is another mark which shows that this is done with the principles of sustainable development. And there is another mark which means that this is the task for grammatical literacy, grammar literacy. These are the publications or textbooks. It's not the entire list of what we printed, what we publishing, and now we digitalize the literature works available to our publishing houses. Why we are doing so? It calls children school library, so that people have a possibility to get access to this library and read these books in digital form. You see that books are available in Russian and Kazakh, and some books are translated in English. This is how it looks. This is Fair Tales of the Peoples of Kazakhstan. So I made this presentation. You can easily listen to this fair tale. I wouldn't dwell on that. This fair tale has voices of our famous artists. and it is accompanied with the popular or folk music. So children can read it, listen to it, and even with music. This is the textbook of Kazakh language, German language. You have a possibility to listen to the native speakers. But due to the time, I'll skip it. This is the English textbook, which is supported with video and other files. Regarding the legislation, e-books and textbooks can be purchased by the schools by subscriptions. All schools are obliged to have electronic platforms with electronic textbooks. Subscription is valid for 1 year. It provides plenty of opportunities for both teachers and students because we are talking about interactive tasks. Teachers can use some manuals and textbooks. They are automatically checked. There is a quick search engine, and teacher can see the level of the progress of training by the students. So everything is available visually for both teachers and students. AI is also used here. You can see interdisciplinary relations, and the same topic is available in various textbooks or literature. It works practically on all electronic platforms, and we have a Kundelik system, which is a diary system. Through this electronic system, you can easily connect to all subjects. It is available to all schools. We have at the same time some problems. It turns out that kids could have paper textbooks published by several publishing houses, but in order to purchase them, you should pay to each publishing houses. We are united on electronic platforms, but we don't have it for printed textbooks. They are using their own platforms. This is a big problem for education ministry, and now they are thinking about how to rectify the situation. I skipped a lot of information. If you need more information, you can easily connect to me through email or telephone. Any questions? If there are no further questions, your contact information is duly taken. Dear friends, in conclusion of this roundtable, I would like to suggest that everyone could share their opinions, which would be incorporated in our final documents in order to take note of all important aspects. I would like our speakers share their opinion as well, and we will draft this document. Anyone who would like to speak something, you have this possibility. Then we have 7 minutes for rest before we start our plenary meeting. Thank you very much.